Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Several Virginia school systems offer hands-on agriculture classes in their land labs. Raised beds are popular options for many home gardeners. And we visit Prince Edward County in our monthly County Agricultural Close-Up.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Sandy River Outdoor Adventures in Prince Edward County, and we'll visit with them a little later in the show. Agriculture is the state's #1 private industry, and ag education programs have been training the next generation of farmers for decades. It turns out some schools have pretty large classrooms.
In addition to 227 ag education programs in Virginia middle and high schools, 19 public high schools offer more intensive learning experiences, often called land labs. They offer a range of opportunities, including raising livestock, planting crops, and applying forest practices. There's often an emphasis on the latest farm technology in subjects like livestock breeding, hydroponics, and solar power, all under the supervision of working farmers and teachers. In Isle of Wight County, students from Smithfield and Windsor High Schools share a 30-acre agricultural land lab. The outdoor ag education program began in 2017 as nothing more than an open field, but grew over the years to offer students an option outside a traditional classroom.
I love to be outside and touch it and feel and just have good examples and all that. Right now we're working on a smokehouse, and that'll be a really great project for this year. We're going to build a big smokehouse so we can hang our hams in there that we do for a competition through the FFA.
I feel that getting out on the land, being able to put your hands on whatever you're talking about, just to give them hands-on opportunities. We can talk about it, we can look at it, we can physically touch it. I think it just gives the students a lot better understanding of what we are teaching, and it gives them that real life scenario.
My goal is to make sure students understand that farming isn't just your stereotypical old MacDonald had a farm, riding on a tractor with a pair of overalls on. We have a lot of row crops in our area, but there's so many other niches. What I like to do as the instructor is try to provide every niche that I can to the students. A lot of our students that come to us at the land lab, they may not be students that typically do well sitting in a desk in four walls. They come out here, to them it doesn't seem like school.
Mr. Brittle, he likes to not just help us, but he likes to let us do things on our own and to teach things whether we fail or not. He likes to watch us fail every once in a while so that we can just pick ourselves up and do it again.
That level of support is a big draw for the Isle of Wight program. 120 students now spend half their school days here immersed in the lessons.
I come from Arizona. Coming out to Virginia and moving here, I just wanted to have more outside time and getting outside away from the table. As I have ADHD, I can't be inside all day, and just moving out here is just a great time for me to relax myself and be out here with my friends, to have this opportunity to use our hands and get out of the classroom from day to day.
Across the state in Giles County, their agricultural land lab has expanded on 40 acres since opening in 2014 for Narrows and Giles County high schools. Some students here have a farming background, but many more do not.
When they come up here, this will be the first time a lot of them have ever seen chickens. It'll be the first time some of them have ever seen sheep, goats, a donkey, or where eggs come from. And they can go into the chicken house, they collect the eggs, they wash the eggs. We plant potatoes, radishes, lots of different vegetables, and they get an idea that this is where their food comes from, and without having the ag lab, they just wouldn't be exposed to any of that.
It allows students to be able to learn with their eyes rather than learning from a book. Favorite activity would have to be doing hands-on stuff like learning how to give animal shots or banding like baby sheep or anything like that.
Part of the FFA motto says doing to learn, and that is what the students get to do up here is truly that actual hands-on doing, getting their hands dirty, all of the realities of what farming is, the good and the bad. They get to see it firsthand.
No farm is ready-made. You just don't step onto a piece of property that is as is, that works, and that is flawless. There's been a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and a lot of difficult conversations surrounded about how to make this facility the best that it can be for our students and what their plate looks like at the end of the day, to be able to identify with those people and those hands and those products that go into their daily lives.
All Virginia Land Labs follow state standards of learning and include the application of math and science on the farm. The students gain an understanding of what they need to learn to become the next generation of farmers or to support their parents now.
You really want people, young people, to come into these farming operations to be able to keep farms going, because we're responsible for clothing and feeding the world. So that's a very big deal.
Ag education students often find additional hands-on experiences with internships. Land Lab students sometimes earn community college tuition in exchange for their work. It's a growing success story for the students and the future of Virginia agriculture.
Reporting for Real Virginia, I'm Norm Hyde.
School ag education programs and private Future Farmers of America chapters often go hand in hand. In the early 1920s, a Virginia Future Farmers Club was a pioneer in state FFA organizations, and students in other states soon followed suit. Now called the National FFA Organization, the National Future Farmers of America was founded in 1928. At first, the FFA was solely for young men, but in 1969, the national organization opened its doors to women. Today, the National FFA Organization has more than 500,000 student members in all 50 states and Puerto Rico.
Hi, today we're going to be talking about raised bed gardens from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
We're stronger together, especially at this difficult time. For over 90 years, we've watched our membership grow, and we're honored to be part of such a special community. Thank you to the farmers who provide for us every day. Virginia Farm Bureau is proud to serve our members, their families, and to give back to our local communities. That's the Farm Bureau way.
Gardening is a popular hobby, but it can be difficult for some people to care for their plants. Chris Mullins with Virginia Cooperative Extension takes a look at some different types of raised garden beds from the ground up.
Well, hello and welcome. Today we're in Henrico County, Virginia. We're here with Sheila Hyde. Sheila, we're in your backyard. You love to garden, I know that, and you've got a lot of great raised beds here. This is your newest one?
This is new.
This is really great. It's a metal bed, right?
Correct.
And it's about a foot tall. I know you've got a slope on your yard here, but it's a really nice setup. It's got some supports in the middle to keep it together. And like I said, it's metal, so it's probably going to be long-lived, don't you think?
Yes, that was the plan. We wanted to have a metal bed because I want to grow asparagus in here. And asparagus is a 10-plus year crop.
Okay.
So I wanted something that would last more than just wood or just dirt.
Was it hard to put together?
Well, this was a kit that we purchased online. It was not too expensive. Okay. It was quite helpful to have two people put it together just to hold while one, it's a lot of nuts and bolts, so it's a lot of screwing it together.
Then you just dug out a little bit because of this slope here.
Exactly.
And put it in there. I know you've got some other garden beds over here that I really love, and I'm going to go check those out. Is that all right?
All right.
Here's some small, more commercial type, that almost like a patio type here. And they've already got some spinach started here, you can see. They've got it protected with chicken wire to keep the critters out. And they've got this one right here, more of a something that's got legs on it. They've got some red vein sorrel there, some onions. A really nice, it's plastic, filled with media, but higher up, so it's easier to work with. And I really like this one over here. This is a powder-coated metal type material. It's round. It's very tall, very nice there. And look at the chicken wire kind of cage that's on here. And you know, They've got a lot of squirrels and other critters in the backyard. They're always trying to get in here and get young plants and just tear up this thing. So this is a really nice setup for keeping those out. This is a more of a fabric type container. You can see here it's like almost like a felt, and water can drain out of it, but it can be easily moved. So it's a little portable. You can do lots of different things with it. It's filled with the media here. So it's another container just like a raised bed. But you can see what they've built here is they've taken some lumber and built a two-tiered system, and they can plant things like peppers right in here. And they could even do some trellising. If you look, like they've got an area where you can trellis. The nice thing about this whole area here too is that they've got a framework built just out of conduit or pipe. So it shades, it's got some shade cloth, and they also can put some netting, bird netting, to keep animals out. And you notice this one is a little taller, but it's nice height to work in. Not really wide, so you can move across it and work. This one's made out of a little bit of metal material and then some wood as the frame. What they've done here, if you notice, this is very deep, and it would be very expensive to put all this media in there, that bagged media that we saw in the previous raised bed. So what they did here is build kind of a base of material, buckets like this to put down the bottom, and then a little bit of wood over top of that to create a barrier between where the media was going to be and the bottom of it, create a false bottom really. And then he covered it with this fabric material, this weed control fabric. So it allows air and water to move through it. But he covered that, and it came up on the sides, and then he was able to fill it with that bagged media. Then it wasn't as much of a volume of that media, so it wasn't as expensive. They also have a nice framework just built here with some PVC pipe that you could drape over some bird netting or shade if you needed it. I like all of them, I really do. I think this is great. And this one is on legs. It's made out of maybe, is this cypress material?
Cypress wood. Mm-hmm.
So it's something that'll last. It'll just weather a little bit, but it really will last.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So a great one here, another good size to work with, I think. I mean, I can see you've already got, what have you got already growing in here?
I have onions and radishes and beets. They're all supposed to be companion plants.
Very good. And I really, as always, I like your theme around here is critters, keeping the critters out, right?
Exactly.
And so this netting material does a nice job of that. And you've got this placed, I see here, it's all placed on pavers, so it's easy to walk around, not muddy, so it's easy to work in.
Exactly.
Are a lot of things we've seen today, are they very expensive to put up, or have you spent a lot?
No, these were not very expensive. Just about everything we've looked at today was under $200.
Okay.
The lower one was about 50 or 60. I wait for sales. I scrounge and scavenge, and yeah, I'm not about spending a lot of money on this.
I know, and that's a great thing. And I know you reuse things also.
Exactly.
So it's really important, and I know you've done this over a period of time.
Exactly. This has been many, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yep. But for your backyard and for just the relaxation of gardening and fun, I think this works for you, doesn't it?
It's great exercise.
Well, thank you so much for allowing us to come out and see your garden.
Thank you for coming.
Well, for more information about raised bed gardens, contact your local county extension office and talk to a master gardener. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins. We'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Coming up on Heart of the Home, a pisciala de air, or an onion tart. We hope you'll stay with us.
Our cow, she walks into the barn, she gets milked. Milk's taken from her and put through a chiller. And that milk's taken from body temperature of a cow, which is about 102.5, and dropped to 35 degrees and put straight onto a tractor trailer. And it goes straight to the plant the next day. So most of the milk that's sitting on your store shelves is probably less than 48 hours old. And that's a pretty good testament to how efficient we are.
Onions are an early crop each spring. Chef Tammy Brawley shares a recipe for a French-inspired onion dish from the Heart of the Home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen, and welcome to Heart of the Home. Today we are doing a pisciala de air, and what I just said was basically an onion tart. Great recipe used for brunches, even a light dinner with a salad. We're going to be using puff pastry, onions, some fresh thyme, a little bit of wine, and some Gruyere and some Parmesan cheese, not to mention some delicious Kalamata olives. We're starting out with a saute pan on my burner here, and I've added butter to it, but I'm also going to add oil. And you might wonder, why in the world would she add 2 fats? Well, actually, the olive oil is added to keep the butter from burning. You just really want enough to cover the bottom of your pan. We need to caramelize the onions, and that just means we're going to make them turn brown. But it is pretty much a lower temperature to caramelize. So what I've done here is I've already sliced up the onions that I want, and we're going to put those in the pan. And yes, it is a lot of onions, but we're going to be filling this tart. And we'll let those start to cook down a little bit, and we'll work on our puff pastry. Pastry is found in your grocer's freezer. There's a couple different brands. I don't really have one favorite over the other. Some chefs might. But I've unfolded it already and put it on a sheet of parchment paper. And I'm actually going to turn it in the opposite direction because I want to start with length, and I want to go from the middle to the top and then from the middle to the bottom. So we roll it out this way, and then we roll it out this way. We will turn it because I want it to fit the pan, but maybe about 3 rolls in each direction. Turn your parchment paper. I would not recommend doing this on a board by itself. It will stick. I do have a little flour here in case I need it, but I'm also going to move it while it's on the parchment over to my baking sheet. From the middle to the end, middle to the end. Now we're going to brush it with a little bit of egg white, and I used my handy dandy fork to whisk that up. You have a choice here. You can either cut the strips and then reformat them on top of the pastry, or you can simply roll them over on the edges, which is kind of a time saver in my opinion. So I'm just going to brush the outside edges a little bit. Now one of the things I love to use is a pie docker. It looks like a medieval tool. You can certainly use a fork for this step. I just want to run some holes in it to kind of air dock it a little bit. That way it doesn't bake up too much when we have it in the oven. And again, this is the step that you can either cut the strips and go and reattach them to the pastry. Either direction you want to use, either rolling it like I'm doing or cut the strips. It's really up to you. But the main thing that you want to remember is to use the egg white. We actually call that glue in the kitchen. And that's just a plain egg white that I've whipped up with a fork. I'm going to roll it up this way. And all I'm doing is developing a nice little border here. That's all I'm doing. We're going to do this way now. And if you want to get a little fancy, you can leave your corners tucked out like that. Makes it nice and pretty for presentation. I'm going to come back and stir the onions again. They're starting to get a little soft, but we do want them quite a bit further along than they are now. So we'll be back in about 20 to 30 minutes. All right, so I have added some sliced Kalamata olives to our sauteed onions. They're cooking down quite nicely. I do want to remind you that, you know, recipes are guidelines. There are no recipe police that are going to come and knock on your door and tell you you're doing something wrong. I really, the recipe tells you to add the wine before you add the olives. I'm going to add the wine afterwards. Not anything in the world wrong with that. We're going to let that reduce down a little bit. Will not take very long. And then for time purposes, I did go ahead and add a few caramelized onions to the bottom of my crust. So you're going to see it be a little bit brown there. And then I went ahead and added some Gruyere and some Parmesan cheese to that. I've turned my heat off now for the onions and the olives. And I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle a little fresh thyme leaves. When you work with thyme, or really any herb that has a soft stem, it's okay if some stem gets on your product. You wouldn't want a twig, like a rosemary twig, or a hard thyme, like this piece here, for instance, is very hard. I don't want that in my tart, but I do want to add the leaves. So if a little bit of stalk gets in, it's perfectly fine. And now what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to pile our onions and olives on top of our tart. We're going to have basically a little mountain. I'm going to go ahead and start spooning to start with. If I tried to dump it, it would be a little bit of a mess. So we're going to move that around. And I'm just going to put it down and try to keep it off of the crust if you can. Don't worry about it if it gets on there. All we're looking is to brown those edges, those nice little rolled up border that we made. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit it with a few more thyme leaves on top. And then I do have just a little bit of cheese left over, so I'm going to go ahead and hit that with some more cheese on the top. This is a mixture of the Gruyere cheese and the Parmesan. Cheese of choice for you guys, whatever you'd like. So now we're going to put this in the oven and it's going to bake about 20 to 30 minutes. What you're looking for is a nice golden brown, and I think we have that. So let's get it out of the oven. Nice and brown on my edges. You can see where the puff pastry baked up very nicely. Now the trick is while it's hot, moving it to the cutting board. Let's see if I can do such a thing. Sometimes when I work with puff pastry, I can lift up the edges and just kind of push the paper underneath. Sometimes. Then again, sometimes you can cut it right while it's on the paper. There's nothing wrong with that either. You also really do want to let it sit for a few minutes before you cut it. You want to cut it into serving pieces, ever how many guests you have. Obviously this would feed probably about 4 people or so. I would say we can probably get away with about 6 pieces. So I'm going to start on one edge. And just like brownies, I love a corner piece. A little bit more crust on there. Love doing that. You know, one of these days we're going to have smell-o-vision. You guys will be able to smell how delicious this is. I'm going to move a piece to my serving platter, right there in the middle. This is a pissaladière, which is French for onion tart. We've got some caramelized onions, some olives, and some fresh thyme, and some Gruyere and Parmesan cheese. I'm Tammy Brawley with The Green Kitchen. Join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
Onions grown for sale to grocery stores are raised on 181 Virginia farms on 48 acres. However, fresh onions are a staple in backyard gardens and farmers markets across the state. They're easy to grow, cold hardy, and rarely have disease problems. They require well-drained soil and full sun and can be planted early in the spring. You can plant onion seeds, slips, or small bulbs. Many gardeners report onion slips produce larger bulbs if given a full season to grow. They're a nutrient-dense vegetable with 0 carbs and vitamins B and C, along with high levels of potassium and antioxidants.
Farmers have to constantly adapt to change. In this week's County Agricultural Close-Up, we visit a Virginia community that lost a major source of income, yet continues to thrive.
Located in south central Virginia, Prince Edward County was long known for tobacco production. But since the tobacco buyout, farmers here have had to adapt. Here's what some of them are doing now. David Emmert's family made the transition from dairy and tobacco to grain and cattle. They manage approximately 450 cattle and calves on his property in Prince Edward and several adjacent counties.
The farm that we're actually on right now is right at the edge of Charlotte County. It's in Prince Edward County, and we have, from where I'm standing right now, I probably can see 3 other farms that we have cattle on.
Dairy farms also once played a larger role in Prince Edward's agriculture economy, but Boot Hill Dairy is still running strong. They've installed automated cow milking machinery that keeps dairy cows producing milk 24/7, allowing them to milk 240 cows a day. Betsy Jenkins and her husband decided to make the investment in automation for the next generation.
We have 2 young sons, 20 and 17, and dairy is a hard life, you know, if you're going to milk the cows yourself. And we just didn't want to have to put them in that position to have to choose of having a life and a family or being able to dairy. So we said, if we're going to do this, we were still young enough and the kids were young enough to where we would just jump in and have it paid for in 10 years or so.
Seeing the automated milking machines at work is an eye-opening experience.
It's washing her teats now, so it's going to wash and stimulate at the same time. So it's her milk production, she's going to let down. And after it's finished washing, then it's going to attach the teat cups individually. Each cow is quarter milked, so each individual quarter is milked separately.
Sekou Abdus Sabour moved to Prince Edward at a young age, as his parents were eager to get out of his native Philadelphia in order to raise children. He raises sheep, hoping to capitalize on the growing demand for lamb in the U.S.
40% of the market for lamb demand is being met by producers in the United States. And of that 40%, 70% are out west and only 30% are here on the East Coast. So we figured that 30% of lamb production on the East Coast, we could get into that market and probably generate a market for people to buy lamb locally. And so that's kind of what we focus on.
Prince Edward has 341 farms, covering 69,531 acres.
The market value of all crops sold is $23,791,000. Livestock is the dominant industry, producing $21,129,000. From that, poultry brings in $13,829,000, while cattle and calves account for $2,523,000. Crops bring in $2,662,000, with hay and other crops delivering $1,076,000. Grains come in for $904,000.
Our soil really lends itself to tobacco production, which we don't have as much of anymore, and with the tobacco buyout and everything, but it does still make for great crop farming. Our climate is really good for getting vegetables in the ground pretty early, and standard for Piedmont, Virginia.
Forestry is also a big part of Prince Edward's economy. Harvesting ranges between 2,000 and 4,000 acres of private timberland per year. Reforestation runs roughly 1,400 acres a year in Prince Edward. Landowners have traditionally sold timber as a commodity in addition to agricultural products off their farm to keep their farms profitable.
Loggers and harvesters are drawn to the area naturally due to the transportation corridors of Route 460 and Route 15, as well as the many merchants that offer goods and services that make it very timely in the event of equipment breakdown for operators that are located close by.
Murphy manages controlled burns in the forest here to keep the land healthy.
This particular burn area is only 4 acres. It's part of a 32-acre parcel, and each year we will block off a different piece of land in order to do a oak regeneration burn to try and improve habitat for not only oak seedlings, but deer, turkey, and rabbit.
Prince Edward also has agritourism venues, such as Sandy Hill Distillery, where proprietors Mark and Candace Smith produce whiskey and vodka made from their own corn. But there's also a host of other activities for visitors.
So we have a farm stay here in Prince Edward County. It consists of 4 cabins and 6 teepees. We have a heated pool, a zip-line aerial adventure park, sheep and a couple donkeys, a pony, several chickens. We raise a garden every year.
Prince Edward's agriculture is diverse and growing. Longtime farmers have had to make the transition from tobacco, but they're discovering new markets to cultivate. In Prince Edward County, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.
We're so glad you could join us this week to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.